And so we have some project board. We are using GitHub projects, and I'm just trying with current issue. I created an issue for the today task, and I ask myself why this issue doesn't appear right up here. I think I have to press this add card. Yeah, okay. No?
I think you closed the issue now.
I closed it? Oh, that's bad. So I have to reopen it.
You can click on closed, I think.
Where do we see the closed?
Down. next to where 8 open and 18 closed.
Oh, yeah. Great. So I don't want to close this. Reopen. So now I want to go back to this project thing. I think Jira is. I'm more used to use Jira, but this thing is for free, so maybe it's worth to give it some try.
I don't see the ticket.
I do not see it either.
Well,
Add card. Oh, maybe I should drag and drop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. So yeah. So last time, Ryder, we tried out Nightlight IDE. So maybe it would be a good idea to give some short insight to you how we are working. And for us, I think it would be a good idea to fire up an IDE to do some integration testing locally.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm launching my project in REPL. REPL is some interpreter thing for closure.
So you want to make a server in the cloud, a server in the Amazon cloud, and install the Nightlight IDE there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we left this ticket open because we want to do some second testing with this Nightlight. And if this converge is going fine, then I think we can close the ticket.
So maybe for context, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Nightlight IDE, Ryder. It's
I'm not. Yeah, go ahead if you want. Yeah.
So actually, maybe you can tell me if I have a lag, because I'm actually sitting in Russia right now.
Oh wow.
So it might be possible that my voice is lagging. I'm not sure. Anyways, so the Nightlight IDE is it's a normal IDE that can be accessed through the browser. So we are like installing it on a server in the cloud, and then you can access it via the IP, and access it via your browser. So that's pretty nice, because then you don't need for working together, you don't need to install on the cloud server a whole desktop environment, but just this IDE.
Yeah, that sounds pretty handy.
Yeah, so I think we are waiting till Amazon's bringing up the instance. So for having a closer insight, I want to, yeah, now it goes ahead. So installing this IDE to the Amazon cloud would take about, I think, 5 minutes. So in some minutes we should see the result.
And guys, don't mind me. I'm really happy to know the context, and I'm really happy to know about this IDE. And also, I'm just doing my own work in the background, so you don't need to worry about explaining things to me.
Okay, sure.
That's fine.
Although,
Okay, so,
if possible, maybe another time I could actually ride along with you guys and ask questions if this goes well. That could be really cool.
would be fine. So then I think we can, in meantime, we can discuss about the upcoming thing. So we can just do a short thing about the requirements we have. You agree, Luca?
Mm-hmm.
So let me just see whether there is Christine tried to join. Also, at least she announced to join. But I think there was another interesting thing to do. Yeah. So let's go to requirements. So I think we should be able to establish a trust in a Git crate.
Can you specify this in some way? Like, which kind of trust?
So trust or SSH trust would be maybe more specific. So if we talk to a server, maybe it's a private server or not so well known than GitHub, then it would be maybe hard to establish this trust. So we should be able to do this. Then we should be able to express Git URL for HTTPS and for SSH. Then we should have user credentials per server. And we should be able to create global config. And we should be able to switch origin. Origin from HTTPS or between. Yeah. So I think in addition to our existing requirements, this would be a fine step.
Mm-hmm. So so for this we need to extract the methods, the functions from the DDI managed IDE from the REPL closure file?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I assume that we don't want to automatically download Git projects, Git repositories with this Git crate. Because like it should be more like a tool that we use for downloading, and then in the DDI managed IDE we specify which Git repositories we want to download.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. In some cases, so we should be able to operate on a configuration, and in this configuration there would be given which repositories we want to download and to which servers we want to establish trust, and which user credentials we will have. Okay. So that's finished. So let's watch back to the installation. The installation is done. So it was successful, it says. Okay. So we would have the IP. Now let's send to you. No, that's the Google Hangout. So chat. And that's a video. Okay. So let's have a view on this. Port 8080, I think. Oh, we have to launch the nightlight. Yeah, I think that's missing. Okay. So we have downloaded our project to code, dda-pallet, and it's a managed IDE. And I think it should be line. Oh, it's a long time ago. I did not know the nightlight start sentence. Maybe I should search for the IDE.
Maybe you should write this in the README file.
Yeah. Did we have written it?
I don't think so. But I'm just saying that it would be.
Yeah. Well, let me say. No, we don't have. Yeah, you're right. We should note it on the README.
Because now we have we are the use case now. So
yeah. Yeah. So search engine didn't find nightlight. What about Google? Yeah, that sounds good. How to get started?
nightlight.
Line port, yeah. Port 8080. Okay. Is it written correct? Nightlight? Nightlight. Yo, sounds good. Okay. So I've written it down. Let's look. So Nightlight is started. So maybe we have now connection. Yeah, here it is.
Yep, I see it too.
Instantiate AWS and watch README. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's working fine. So I will commit the README change, and then let's go ahead to the GitLab, to the Git correct. Okay. So by the way, I found interesting Atom plugin for handling Git. So what setup are you using at the moment,
What plugin?
Luca? Yeah,
Git control.
Git control. So this is working fine for you?
Yeah, I don't have any problems. There are some parts of the interface that are not completely intuitive, but I figured it out, and now everything's fine.
Okay, so I found out that you should have Gitflow installed in order to be able to operate all the stuff.
Git what install?
Gitflow.
Git flow. Okay.
Some enhancement of Git. And
You mean is that a package for Atom or some add-on for Git itself?
It's a package for operating system, I think. And so I found that no. I found some other plugin that works quite good without Gitflow installed. So I think it was called Atomite Git. But maybe I've written it wrong. Atomic? Oh, then. Okay, I have to search it again. So I did not remember properly how it was called. So if I find it, I will add this plugin in our plugins list here, so we can launch also with working Atom. instead of Nightlight.
You mean at
Okay.
least with working Git in Atom?
With a good Git support included in Atom already, I would say, yeah. Okay, so let's go to the project board. So I think we can close Nightlight. Because it's working. And we can go on to this Git create topic. Okay. So I created already an additional repository. And in order to do some work, let's switch to a new feature branch. How this new feature is called? Do you know which number we have?
No. Do you mean from the ticket you just made? No. 26.
26, yeah. Okay. Go on. So first step should be, maybe we can integrate a new repository to the list of our existing repositories. So the new repository would be in this one. DDA. Somewhere in here. Yeah. Okay. And then I will clone it locally. And we can start with project file, I think.
So the project is files where the dependencies are defined.
Exactly. Oh, I have no item installed here. Okay. So can launch from an existing project file. So this module should be called trade. And we will start with a 1.0 snapshot. And the module is meant to install and handle maybe it's not a handle the right word, but maybe it's more manage. And maybe it's not install, but it's clone. Okay.
Maybe it's better to write module 2 clone or module 4 cloning and managing, like with a verb. Not with a verb, but like a connection word.
And matching. Well?
Yep.
Okay. So information can be found on our website. License would be Apache 2. And we will use Clojure. We will use Pallet. I think we'll use maybe Stevedore. We will use Schema. And we will use the Git crate itself. Pallet Commons, Pallet. We will use integrate and backup, and the managed VM itself we will not use here. Okay, for doing development, we will have an additional source part integration. We will have additional resources, dev resources. We will have dependencies.
What is the difference between those dependencies and the other ones?
So these are general dependencies here. And these dependencies are only meant for development mode. So if we execute Clojure in Eclipse, for example, or in wrapper, we are by convention in development mode. But if we will deploy our module, then this development parts will not be included.
So like if some other project wants to use this Git crate 1.0 snapshot, then only the first dependencies will be included.
Yeah, exactly this.
Okay.
So we will have here in the dev profile dependencies to the Amazon Cloud API. We have dependencies to some testing code, and yeah, logging, for example, and things like this. Okay. So we will deploy snapshots and releases to Clojure. Find it. Okay, so I think that's a fine project. So the next step will be create IDE files. For Eclipse, in this case. So I can import this project to Eclipse.
So deploy repositories, that means we would deploy this project, or what is meant with deploy repositories? Well, I know that you can get the dependencies from Clojure, but are we?
Just let me finish this. Deploy means that we will deploy Clojure artifacts, so jar files, to this repository.
From Clojure.
That's a Clojure. That's not Clojure.
Yeah, yeah, Clojures.
So Clojure is something like in Java world, this would be called Maven or Nexus repository. So you know Maven or Nexus? So if you declare in Maven some dependencies, the dependencies will be pulled automatically into the project, and these dependencies are loaded from a repository. And so one provider of this repository server is called Nexus, and one other product is called Artifactory.
So with the deploy, we mean that we deploy our crate to this closures web page or server.
Yeah, exactly this.
Yeah. Because like the first repository snapshots closures is that we want to say that we get the snapshots and releases from closures, and the second one is that we
Yeah, exactly.
But why does this have to be defined in the project file?
Well, because we want to get some open source components, but we want to deploy our component to some other directory. So this would be important if we have no open source license. So in this case, it would be maybe a good idea not to publish our modules to our open source platform. So everyone else would be able to download this closures dependencies and would be able to use them. So that's maybe a good idea then to declare deploy repositories in a separate way. So answered the question? Okay. Okay, so we have nearly finished setting up. I think the last step to set it up would be include this this new created module in our master build. So here we would also include the Git crate. Okay. So I will commit in order that you can also see results. Okay. And I have to push it. So just a short view on Meetup, where there's some message. No.
Well, maybe we can
Okay.
in the future like put an extra place there, so like more than we actually can handle, if some people just flake out. Because
Didn't get the idea?
no, the idea was just like you can put some extra place there, because like for the last times there was always at least one person who didn't come. So
Yeah.
and like if some other person looked at this now and like, oh, it's already full, then of course that's bad.
Yeah, then you're right. So
But
I think it's very common on Meetup that people are booking places and not occurring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So next time we can handle this another way. So in terms of Git crate, what would be the next step? Let's have a short view on the managed IDE, for example. So I think it would be good to have such an integration thing, because in integration we can do a test against, let's say, Amazon. And next thing we should start is creating a crate, and we should have some short domain thing in order to create some default configuration. So we should have a source folder. And we should have some integration folder. and the source folder. So it's just, I think, issue of Eclipse. I want to have created as source folder, yeah. Okay. So let's just have, first of all, some instantiation. So we have an I will take the most progressive example. So we have a namespace called dda. And in this namespace, we will have pallet crate package dda.pallet crate, and this will be called dda git crate. And convention is to have underscores instead of minus for namespaces on file system. Okay, so now we can have an instantiate AWS here. And if we do some experiments with more than one crate, then the namespaces will be separated by this dda git crate thing. Okay. dda-pallet crate, and then import dda git crate. We will have closure inspector to inspect large maps. We will have some pallet compute, so that's not up to AWS. We will need encrypted credentials. We will need session tools, for example, maybe. We will need it. Then we will need schema and some operational stuff. And we will have some configuration. Here. And we have some group things. Okay. Domain. Okay. So now I will be able to speak again. We will have an AWS provider. We will be able to converge something. And we will have to create namespaces for providing these informations. Okay. Then let's create some namespaces. So we will have dda pallet, and we will start with domain. And we will call it git crate. Do we call this git crate or dda git crate? What do you think?
Well, I don't think
part of the name already. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say DDA git crate, because like the git crate itself, there's already a git crate.
Okay, so we should distinguish this. So we'll put this DDA in here also. So dda-pallet domain, DDA git crate would be the name. Okay. Then let's get some inspiration in here. So let's manage IDE thing, and we will put this in here. And this will not be managed IDE, but it will be named the git crate. This will be the only thing available directly in dda-pallet domain. And so I think in other terms, we would talk about that's a module boundary. So if someone comes from outside, we should provide here a place with stable information and with stable functions, and we would do validation of all incoming and outgoing pieces of data. So that's the idea of a boundary. And namespaces residing in this DDA git crate sub-package would be handled as internal functions. And so if there's some missing validation in there, so that's fine for the first place. And if there's some unexpected errors, if someone puts in wrong data, so I think that's okay at this point. What do you think about this concept?
I'm not sure I understood it correctly, because like in which way is there a real boundary that checks something?
Okay, I can show it to you. So we are using schema, and schema is, on one hand, it's for defining structure of maps, and for the other hand, there's some extended macro definition of how to define functions. And with this extended macro definition, you can put in a always validate. And always validate will validate whatever comes out of this function. So this is defined here. And it validates whatever comes into this function. So that's what I meant about validation, or mentioned about validation.
Mm-hmm. And what does this have to do with namespace?
Oh, this namespace thing, that's just a convention.
Okay.
So I do not know a really good way of protecting inner function from outside in Clojure. So in Java, you would be able to declare a package private or something like this level. But on Clojure, I do not know a real good way to protect functions to be called from outside, or from called from outside. So I think the least thing we should do is to do some having some conventions in there. So these conventions we can describe and tell others that we handle it in this way, so nobody gets surprised. So I think it's a good level of confidence we can provide. So elements of this domain thing is In this domain, we will declare domain level of configuration. So that's the most easy way to handle, let's say, Git repositories. And we can provide functions to generate a more detailed layer of configuration. And this more detailed layer of configuration will be the input of the real crate itself. So we are able to have two levels of configuration complexity, and we are encapsulating all this intelligence, how to create from a simple configuration a more complex one to this domain level. And this managed IDE group is a function generating the group we will use for this instantiate AWS thing in here. So let's start with the group itself. So we will have configuration in here. We will not need this init. We will not need a virtual machine. We will not need an IDE. We will also not need backup. But we will need some kind of Git crate. So let's call it dda git. Yes. dda git. Okay. So I think it would be okay to do only against Amazon, or only integration platform with the Amazon. So we will not need this condition in here. So the code can be more easy, more simple.
Oh, can you show me again? What did you delete?
I deleted, I can show it here, I think, on the original place. I deleted functions like how we will want to have a stack configuration. Yeah, maybe we will need this. And an additional function for generating the stack configuration. So
What is a stack configuration?
Stack configuration I call configuration in crate direction. So let's talk about a stack configuration. So maybe we'll need some SSH keys. We will need them in order maybe to. No, we don't need them. So that's default configuration of the dda-pallet engine. So there's a separate place for defining SSH keys. There's a separate place for defining operating system users. And these two informations can be referred in additional configuration pieces.
But what is meant
to describe
as a what is meant with stack in this context? I mean,
yeah. So you have seen the Git group. In this Git group, we are. So I'm searching for the English word. We do aggregate some modules. So in this case, we are aggregating the module for providing configuration and the module for doing some Git operation. And this aggregation will be an element of this stack. So the aggregate itself, I will call stack maybe. So like stack of middleware software on a server.
but why is it not the group? I mean,
so the group is grouping the code. So that's the code. What should be operated on the target system, and that's grouping the configuration.
Okay, so the group is like the code stack, and the config stack is the config stack, in some in other terms. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's and that's the reason why the structure of modules will arise in groups and in code and in configuration also. So that's not really clear.
Well, I mean,
so maybe let me write some things. Maybe it gets clearer. So for the managed IDE, it had combined more modules than only one. And for this DDA Git, I will have just configuration for exactly one module. And this configuration we will describe in namespace of grades. So we are actually in a namespace of domain, and we will have an additional namespace. It will be called grade. Yeah. The next step will be to define the grade itself. So, and if we have defined the grade, we will write grade level configuration, and we will include this here.
yeah, I mean, I understood that, like, wait, why is there another stack configuration?
So that's the definition of the schema, and that's actually generating the configuration.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I will clean up the schema, and we will have a function called, so it's not a MISA ID stack config. It's a DA grade stack config, and that's a DDA git grade config. I think the names are not rock solid at all. So we will put out such a configuration. Such a schema would be an output. And we will get in MISA IDE now. DDA git main configuration. That would be the input. And somehow we will generate something. Which could be something like this. Group specific config. We will have a git group. And we will have a host name. Could be empty. Have a domain name. Could be empty. And we will have an additional configuration. Will be called dda-git. And we will have configured something in here. Okay.
Why is this called additional configuration if it's actually the main configuration? Or
Unfortunately, that's has an historic reason. Because I started the dda-pallet project with a goal to replace something like Puppet or Chef. And as Puppet or Chef are very server specific, so I was server specific also. So this stuff was something about bringing configuration to a server. So host name and domain name are very prominent in this configuration thing. And I thought, okay, so every software in addition would be an additional configuration. So in some point in time, we will do a refactoring and bringing all this configuration, additional configuration stuff to a first level. And maybe we will have some configure server create in addition. So we should not be forced to have this on different levels. So does this answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So something like this can occur. Then we will have this git thing. That's fine. And we will have a configuration. Will be a DDA. Managed IDE stack configuration domain config. Domain config is coming in. So we will have a type of dda-git domain config. It should be typed. And we will create a DDA stack configuration out of this, putting in the domain configuration, getting out the stack configuration. The stack configuration we will put to configuration support. Then we will call our crate. And as we called this crate, it will be some operation based on this configuration given.
Also,
Okay.
maybe it shouldn't be the managed IDE group.
Where do you see managed IDE group?
After API group spec.
Yeah, okay, you're right. So this will be called git IDE group.
Git IDE?
No, you're right. Maybe, how do we call this crate? DDA git group. Okay. Possibly this will work already. So let's go back to this instantiate AWS. So we will have provider here, defining the details of AWS access. And we will call this converge thing. And we will have this AWS provider, and we will have domain. And we will call in this domain function creating the group. So maybe we will call this function also dda git group. We will provide a count. We will provide a configuration. Domain configuration we will provide. And this domain configuration we will create exactly here. And AWS spec, node spec is generated here. Okay, so that's fine. So we will need something like a fine domain config. And this endpoint is really empty. Okay. So if we have provided passphrase and key, then the remaining stuff would be the same. And we have to start function. Okay. So in terms of server test, so yeah, okay. In terms of server test, it would be the same.
What exactly is the server test doing?
So they are just can be distinguished by executing other phases. So the converge install will be execute a phase called settings, will be execute a phase for install, and will execute a phase configure, and will execute a phase test. And server test will only execute settings and test. So there's no configuration in there and no installation. So in best case, the convention is that state of the target system is unchanged.
And what does it actually test?
So whatever we implement in code.
Okay.
So in terms of DDA managed IDE, it tests, for example, that packages are installed. So I can show this to you. I think we have create managed IDE. So we have a test phase defined here, and this test phase is testing whether Atom is installed, for example. So for Git, we can write own tests and execute these tests in with the server test function. Okay. So this possibly could work already. So now I think it's time to add some real functionality in here. So we could create a crate. So we want to push this namespace also one up, because that's the same as for domain. This is also how do I call this in English? It's a boundary here. So I want to move this. I want to move this to the crate directly. And I have to rename it because crate is next to domain and not below domain. Okay, so now we have domain. So that's the level of putting in some conventions. We have the crate, so that's the place we have the full complexity. So now I can rename this and call this DDA git crate. Okay. So DDA crate. So we have facility. Facility is just expressing the name of this crate, and in the same way, it's the keyword we are searching for in configuration. So we have called this additional configuration, we have called it DDA git. So the facility name will be DDA git. Version is defined, but I think I'm not sure whether we want to use this. So git project configuration, we have already defined one. Next things we want to have. So these are plain functions. Are the some hooked methods, hooked functions from dda-pallet itself. So we will have overwritten a DDA configure, we will have overwritten a DDA install, and we will have overwritten a DDA settings if we want to put additional settings in there. And we can also overwrite this DDA test. So I will throw out. And we will have this DDA git crate. And we'll have this crate. Okay. Fine. So we have crate. We have
So
a convention.
when will these methods be executed? Because I don't understand why we need them, because they seem empty.
Please again.
When will these methods be executed? Because they seem empty.
Yeah, they are empty. So they are called if we do a conversion store. So all of these methods will be called. So first of all, we will have settings called, then configure will be called, then install will be called. No, install will be called, configure will be called, and then last but not least, test will be called. So, and these methods are empty because we have to fill them up.
But they seem to be empty when you copied it. So it's
no.
So are they also empty in DDA managed IDE?
No. Can I show this to you? So we have some things in there. So we have some install system function called, and we have called a package test function in here, and we have called a configure user function. And the reason why this is just so minimal, I've in other crates like the managed IDE crate, I have to distinguish between user-based configuration and system-based configuration. So some configuration is user-specific. So I've introduced this two levels of functions. Answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so we have defined a crate here. We have defined stack configuration here. We have defined group and function for providing configuration or translating configuration. And we have the point where we instantiate things. So I think that's now all together. And I'm going to do the first compilation try on this new crate. So I think we will see some places where we have missed to wire these things. Okay, could not locate pallet domain. So it's instantiate AWS. So we have something defined that's not available here. dda-pallet domain, dda-git crate. Yeah, that's true. Maybe it's better if we access only the boundary. So now it's missing pallet crate. Do you see the line? Could not locate pallet crate init on ClassPass. Okay, on domain git crate there's something missing.